Peace, y'all. It's your man, Dave. You may have heard me alongside my brother Quest on the Marriage Ain't for Suckers program. We're still going strong, and now it's time to take it up a notch. This is the Grown and Married program with my co-host, my rib, the queen of my castle, the queen of my life, Simone Harris. We've been friends for almost 30 years and married for almost 20. So we know a thing or two about making marriage and relationships work if you're willing to make it work. So gather around, y'all. Share this with your spouses, your friends, your frenemies, and yes, even your enemies. And let's make marriages phenomenal together. Queen Simone, I know you're ready. I know you're set. So let's go.
Yeah, what up? This is the Grown and Married program with your host and co-host. My name is L. David Harris, and Queen Simone is to the right of me. And for those of you watching online, now you know that we are L-I-V-E with the audio and the video. And so we're going to be talking about something today that matters probably for everyone, but certainly those who are married. And as you can see, those who are watching, we are in nature as usual. And for those of you listening, clearly we are not in a studio.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's all good. You can still hear, and we are out in nature because who needs to be locked up in the box all day? Oh, wait, that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we took that on. We're taking this show on the road. And so thank you for joining us. I'd like you to direct your web browser to www.grownandmarried.com, and there you can post your question. And maybe I shouldn't have said post, but you can ask your question and it'll come to us in a private message. Nobody will see it, and we'll do our best to answer. And so without further ado, let's get this party started. Hey, Simone.
Hey, David. How you doing?
No bueno.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had my turn with allergies, and now it's your turn.
Yeah.
And Josiah having a little something, too, so.
Yeah, he'll get through. Last year this time, people thought when I was doing this big sort of internet series in front of a whole bunch of people online, people thought I was preaching too hard or something, and that's what was messing my voice up. But now we can know a year later that it had nothing to do with that, because we are exactly at the same time as last year when I got the beating.
Yeah, and some people thought I wasn't taking care of my husband.
Can you imagine? Yeah, so. Yeah.
Anywho.
So, yeah, it's just what it is. I probably got another 2.5 weeks of this, so we run through it, and Lord bless us. But today, we are overcoming obstacles, and this is one of them, because when I went in the box, I wasn't quite like this.
Right.
But, you know, it is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, overcoming obstacles. And it could be any kind of obstacle in your marriage.
Yeah.
Because the slightest thing, what might seem an obstacle to us might not be to somebody else.
Right.
But the question is, how do you get through those times?
Yeah.
What do you do to get through those times?
Yeah. Let's start from something ultra simple that can throw people completely off and get to some, complex things. So for those of you watching, you already, you didn't see it. It happened before we started. So moments before we started the program, Simone wanted to take a shot, like a picture, still photo with her phone, but she's to my right? And if you're watching us, you can see that my left shoulder is just in the frame and Simone's shoulder is just inside the frame. And so she's trying to take a photo, but I'm trying to frame the thing up because we're actually going online, right? So I'm like, could you like sit still? Now, if we were petty, we could have had an argument over that on one end or the other. One, it could be an argument because I'm trying to frame up the thing for what I'm going to say matters, but it really isn't. It's just my opinion. And she's trying to do what she's trying to do. And so it could have been that I had beef with her over that, or she could have had beef with me because I said, could you sit still? Right? And people would be surprised how quickly things go crazy over something as simple as that.
It's true. It's the response to the actual thing.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I could have said, "Who are you talking to?"
Yeah. And I would have been like, "You're the only one out here. I don't see nobody else. I'm not talking to myself because I'm sitting still." Right? And now you have a problem, Houston, over something petty.
Yeah.
Petty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't always have to be something big and complex. We'll talk about some of that stuff too, but just tone of voice, timing, perspective. Maybe I bucked my toe on the way out and I got an attitude problem and any little thing sets me off. And if you know that's you, then you really need to take time. Like, you know clearly that you have a short fuse over little or nothing, then you need to just take time and say, man, if I'm going to be married, then I need to dial back my little pettiness, right? And maybe, Simone in this case, if this were a real scenario, I come out different than I went in to wherever I was. It could be blow up or something happened. Well, what happened? Like, how did you come out like weird and different when you went in regular? And those are the kinds of things where we try to understand before we seek to be understood. Yeah. And that goes a long way.
And I think, too, you have to know your spouse. To know when it could be something or it could not be something. Or maybe they're the type that probably don't want to talk about it right now.
Take time.
Yeah. And then you say, you know what? They'll talk when they're ready. But if you see something where, like, if I see you come out like you said, and all of a sudden you're tearing up, I'm gonna act on that right then and there.
Yeah.
Until you say, I just need a moment. I don't want to talk about it right now. And be like, okay, I'm not gonna push. But if I'm the type that says, no, you're going to talk to me about it right now because I'm trying to figure out what is wrong with you. Why are you crying? Did I do something wrong? And then at that point, that's when you're going to be like, just shut up already.
Well,
or something
I might
like
not
that.
say shut up already. But.
Well, I know, but
But yeah, no, I would be like when we were young, you had that commercial. Y'all had to be a certain age to understand what we're about to say. I might be thinking, Calgon, take me away. Right. Because I cannot manage. It's not that I can't manage, but if I'm trying to think through something, a battery of questions drives me completely batty. Crazy. It's mad, right? So, again, it's a matter of seeking to understand before we are being understood. Yeah. So that's a simple obstacle. Let's throw a big one in.
Oh, boy. You have one?
Yeah, and it's not even a relationship issue yet.
Okay, all right, okay.
It's an obstacle. Okay. Because we have to overcome all of those.
Yes.
So, our friend Barbara, Barb, has a husband. His name is Bob. Now, Bob, I don't know what the timing of the day was, so I'll just make it up because I don't know what time it was, so whatever. But let's just say, Barb and Bob are having a normal morning, whatever that is for them, and then Bob goes out of the house. Now, Bob, in this reality, this is real right here. Bob had an accident in his vehicle. And basically, it looked like the vehicle went through a paper shredder. And now Bob, what are his injuries? One of his, what happened to him?
Leg is broken.
Leg is broken.
And an arm is broken. Yeah. And have other, like, bruised ribs. But
so he's in he's in a mess because Bob is a strong guy. He's not the thickest person you've ever met, but the dude is energetic and strong and extremely attentive. So now you have at least two obstacles, even if we don't drill down. One is Bob is not coming back home the way he went out. I'm not even going to add complications like maybe they were having a problem before they went out.
Right.
I'm not adding anything like that. But just normal life at at 6 o'clock in the morning, everything is regular. And by 7:30, Bob has broken parts of his body. Mm-hmm. So clearly he can't be as energetic as he was.
Right.
Clearly he's in pain. Yeah. But before you even get into that, now you're wondering what's going on with my husband.
Yeah.
So, and that's not to mention the many children they have, some young, some not as young.
Right.
And the financial implications, the distance to work, whenever he's repaired himself or he's fixed up, patched up, that's going to be a while because he's pretty busted up.
Yeah.
That's a big obstacle.
It is, because now the whole dynamics change within the home, where he's helpful at home. I know that much.
Yep, we know this.
Yeah. And now everything is going to be on wifey, on Barb.
Yeah.
But the other children.
Yeah, they have, there's plenty of children, but even still, whatever that dynamic was is not the same.
Exactly. When they have to go out, to do things. Everything just changes when that happens. So now how do you rearrange life so that it can be as normal as possible?
Yeah. All the while, Barb must be, she's thankful, I know this, but she's still seeing her husband in pain. Right,
and having to deal with that.
I've seen him hurt something before, but we've only known them 12 years, most.
Yeah.
And so nothing like this since we've known them. Yeah. So imagine now you're looking at this strong man who who knows, maybe when it's time to sleep, because the things that are bothering you are worse at nighttime. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
What if he's in pain to where he's moaning at night?
Yeah.
And she has to figure out, what can I do, if anything? And my husband is broken physically. What impact is that having on him emotionally? Because your husband is thinking, I don't want her to worry, but at the same time, she kind of is.
Yeah.
That's a big obstacle.
Yes, it is. And it can wear on, both of them emotionally. Both of them emotionally. And so the one thing I know about them too is that they have, their community.
Their what?
Community.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They have their community, but that emotional aspect is what you have to deal with. And as they go through it now, here we go. We go back to the C word, communication.
What she said.
Communication. Bob, what are you thinking? Or how are you, or they both sit down and talk about how they're doing and how they're going to get through this,
Let's say arbitrarily, I don't know that this is the case, but let's say arbitrarily that Bob is a macho guy, right? And he's, even though he's on crutches, but one hand can't use the crutches because it's broken too. But let's just say because I know he's ultra athletic, but say he's stubborn and ultra athletic. I'm not saying he is, because I don't know that he is. And macho. And now he wants to try to continue doing what he normally does. And wifey wants to be nurturing, but at the same time, she's looking at this dude like, you are going to break the other side of you. And he's like, give it a rest, I'm good. And she's like, no, you rest. You're not good because half of you's broken. Now you have another kind of obstacle.
Yeah, you do. And I guess I would think differently when it comes to that.
Would you?
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Leave him alone.
Leave him alone?
Yeah. And if he falls over, then I'd be like, you need some help now?
See, it sounds good when it's hypothetical.
I know. I'm just saying.
I got chickenpox when I was 35.
Yeah.
Now let's start with that scenario. You can tell that story. Just don't drag nobody.
I'm not dragging anybody.
Halfway.
But I'm not. No. No, you tell it.
No. Because I've been telling the first two.
No, I mean, you got the chicken pox.
I got the chicken pox at 35.
Yeah. And it was scary. Mm-hmm. It's totally different than when children have it and adults have it. And David doesn't complain much about anything. And so when I saw him, there was one day I was just like, what happened? You look like somebody punched you. You look like you were in a fight. He had nodules. I mean, it was because, he has no hair on his head because he shaves it off. Sidebar. He still got hair, though. Anyways, so he ended up with... no, because I don't want anybody to think... Okay, forget it.
Doesn't matter.
So anyway, so he had these things, and it was just looking really bad, and I was really scared for him. And I was just like, dude, I need to take you to the doctor or to the emergency room because he was looking not great.
Yeah, it wasn't just the chickenpox marks, which are all basically a bunch of hundreds or thousands of little infection things.
Right.
But like she said, I looked like I got beat up and lost because I was swollen all over my, from neck up and had fever, 100 and something, but probably, well, if I said no to you, then it wasn't 103. So it was 100 or 102 or lower. But it was 100 to 102.
But still,
for sure.
He looked ridiculous because I've never seen it that bad. I mean,
Yeah,
and I work in the hospital with sick people.
Right.
I've done adults and I've done 1 pound and 1 pounders. And to see that, it really, I was just like, oh my goodness, and luckily my mom was there.
Yeah, she was still there?
Yeah, she was still there.
Okay, she was there.
She was still there. And I was just like, wow, what in the world is going on? But I had to, I was nervous, What? What are you thinking? She wasn't there?
No way. No. Because
yes.
it was.
She helped me take my locks out.
See, we're having an obstacle here. It was when President Obama became president. Mommy came there when Josiah was born.
Oh, I thought she came up for the holidays.
Well, all I know is she was gone by the time we was in the house by ourselves.
Okay.
And you had to leave me by myself because the discussions we were having wouldn't have been relevant if Mommy was there.
Okay.
About should you leave me, yes or no, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, things are all mixed up.
Yeah.
But at any rate, it was a challenging time. And we made it through.
Yeah.
We made it through.
Because that detail matters because of the rest of the obstacle. So you asked me, do I need to stay home? Because we lived almost 100 miles away from work.
Yeah, it was very far.
Do I need to stay home from work to tend to you? Yes or no? And there must be an emotional challenge when I say no.
Yeah.
In good hands, if Mommy's there, is one thing. Nobody busting a fever, and all I got is some oatmeal bath packs and whatever devices I have. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a massive thing because you could be, I don't know exactly what you were thinking. You told me some of the stuff, but you could be thinking, I don't know, tell me what you could be thinking.
Well, no, because when you think about stuff like this, especially because again, I've taken care of patients with it. I'm thinking that this dude's gonna stay here and either faint. You just start thinking all these things. As a medical professional, you thinking, okay, it's a cold, but your mind go from cold to ventilator, or from cold to pneumonia, or those type of things. So for me, it was okay. He looks horrible. He needs some medication.
Dead of winter.
Yeah, and it's winter. And I was just like, okay, this is not going to work for me. Because if I go to work, I'm going to be at work thinking and calling him every minute. And if he doesn't answer the phone, when I call, I am going to tell them, look, I need to go home because my husband is very sick. So, yeah, those are the things that that go through my mind.
So here's another obstacle. So we did not have a child yet. And I'm 35 with chickenpox. And just look it up. One of the things that they say is you're at a high risk of sterility. So I think that is a potential obstacle with a capital O, considering at that time, clearly, you wanted to have a child ASAP. And I say Simone did because there was a time when we were on the same page at the same pace. And then there was a time that she went ahead of me in terms of, now it's time. And I'm like, it's almost time. So now I'm here with the prospect of things not working reproductively. But thank God, I mean, that didn't happen. But you don't know that that's not going to happen.
True.
You can guess and hope and pray.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
True. And you're sitting there like, okay, this dude, he's not going to go get no help. We're going to have a problem. And now we can't have a child.
And I wanted a child 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year ago.
Yeah.
And now I don't.
Right. That's another obstacle.
Right?
Another obstacle.
But after that particular thing went over, I mean, it took some time for me to recover, no doubt. But after that happened, and we did have a child, one of the first things that Simone thought and said, which really bespeaks patience through all obstacles. She thought about it. Now the stress is over. What if we had Josiah? When I got a terrible case. It doesn't really matter what case, because it's a virus that is extremely contagious at the first edge of that.
And he would not have been fully vaccinated.
And he would not have been. And did they have chickenpox he didn't take chickenpox vaccinations at that time.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
On top of that.
Right. At that point, it would have been like,
So how do you quarantine that? Right?
Right.
So
you have to go stay somewhere else.
So that's the thing. So whenever there are trials and certain obstacles, we have to be patient and say, let's push through the obstacle. Let's push through the trial together. And you don't know what the bright side will be. But if you do succeed, and you should, then you realize that there was some learning opportunities through the obstacle. There are ways that we could have grown together. In our case, we absolutely did. And there's also a blessing that we couldn't possibly forecast.
Now I want to talk about financial obstacles.
Okay.
So how do you work through those? Because we know that that's one of the top 5 things that really disrupt marriages. And disrupt is putting it nicely.
Yeah.
Like, how do you work through it? Because you have some people who they're like, you're not putting enough into this marriage with, financially speaking. And then it's like, if there's no money in the bank, then, oh well. Attitude breaks out big time between spouses.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're used to living a certain way. You're used to certain things. And it's like, okay, now I can't do what I want to do. I want to go out with my friends. I can't go with my friends. I see a nice purse. I want that. I can't, because you're not contributing financially to the family.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So a scenario of the husband not, for whatever reason, we talked about this a little bit last week in a different sort of context, but the husband, for whatever reason, and I can think of 2 scenarios of 2 different marriages where one of the husbands actually got fired because he was a slacker and he was in ministry. So adultery was his issue, and they fired him. This was decades ago. They fired him. But what happened was he was getting dressed every day. Now, I don't know how long it was, but every day this dude was going to work. Or no, not going to work, leaving the house as though he's going to work every day. And then the way the wife finds out was, I don't know exactly how, but it wasn't because he told her.
Right.
And even if it were, it was like way after the fact. So now they have financial problems. And in another scenario, the husband, for whatever his reasons are, just quit his job. And wifey is dead with exhaustion.
Yeah.
And besides that, the husband has an explosive temper. So he's not contributing financially. And if he has an explosive temper and he lets it loose in the house, that means he's not contributing emotionally. And if you have that and it's uncontrolled, then clearly you're not contributing spiritually. But they're still married.
Yeah.
For however long. Now what? Right?
Yeah.
I would call that an obstacle.
Yeah, and then you have resentment. You have, all kinds of things. Anger. And worse, if there are children involved, now the relationships are just sparse. They're just, nothing is connecting.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you make that happen? So it's a lot to think about.
Well, I think, these are not therapy sessions when we have these
Right.
kinds of programs. But did I say therapy in the session? Did I say that in the sentence?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're encountering issues, no matter what they are, whether it's somebody who's at fault or it's just that life has thrown this obstacle your way, the first thing, if you're a believer, is prayer. And prayer together, separately and together. And while you're praying, because you're not going to stop that, while you're praying, you have to be honest about what the obstacles are.
Yes.
Whether there's a culprit or whether there's not. But we both need to be honest. If there's some culpability, then we have to be honest and take, take ownership. Where I have been wrong or whatever. And there comes a point that all of our communication, if we're having the right attitude in marriage, because communication, like you said, is key. All of the communication, all of the prayer, all of the taking ownership still isn't getting it. That means we need a third human third party.
Right. I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A human third party who can coach you first stage. And if coaching is not enough, then full professional, in our case, Christian counselors who are licensed, not just good advice givers,
Right.
licensed and prepared for family and marriage type counseling.
Right.
And that way, whenever something massive reveals itself that's beyond the obstacle, then they are qualified to deal with those things.
Yes. And real quick, I was going to say, and if you have the challenge of one of you or one of the spouses do not want to go to counseling, still go to counseling yourself.
Yeah.
Just so that you will, now at this point, you'll be given coping mechanisms or strategies in how to make it through that time. And again, prayer, like you said, but again, if you are in the situation and your spouse does not want to go, doesn't mean you don't go.
That's right.
That's my recommendation or my thing.
Definitely. And so note that we didn't speak about spousal abuse as one of the obstacles, because in the case of spousal abuse, and maybe we'll do a program on that one day, joint counseling is out of the question. It seems counterintuitive. It seems like, of course, you should. But with this concept or principle called the cycle of abuse, what happens is when people are having marital counseling, then the abuser for the moment thinks, if he or she will go to that kind of counseling, thinks everything is peachy keen, and then you just keep running through that cycle after the honeymoon phase. Look it up. And you just keep going round and round and round and round. So joint counseling is not recommended for spousal abuse, but that's another program. So the other obstacles, then do exactly what we said, and whatever else, the Lord inspires you to, and good friends, counselors, and coaches. And so we probably won't solve all the problems of the world today.
Right.
But we all have them, obstacles, but God gives us the grace and intelligence and resources and tools to be able to overcome any obstacle in our marriages. Mm-hmm. So there it is.
There it is.
Yeah. So I'm going to go try to overcome this obstacle I'm having. But in the meantime, we'll holler at y'all. Peace.
There you have it, y'all. I hope you've enjoyed your time with us. Marriage is about mutual love and mutual respect, and it works for those willing to make it work. Real talk, our spouses are treasured jewels given to us to make life better. And the sooner we learn to value one another will be the sooner we become the most phenomenal versions of ourselves we can be. Until next time, peace from Dave and the queen of my castle, Simone. We got love for you, baby.